exciting one really for me to date, because this is a new meat-eating dinosaur. We have a thin animal, we have a long-legged animal, we have a sharp, long face with a broad, blunt nose. And since we've still got a lot of these bones trapped in the original rock, which is just like concrete, it's taken us an awful long time to get the bones out. And we try chemicals and we try mechanical ways of shifting this rock off the bone, but it's a slow, delicate process.
Excavated in April 1998, it has yet to be named. But already it bears an eerie resemblance to Velociraptor, only twice as big. A graceful hunter, it stood 5 feet tall and was 16 feet long. Its arms had a 3-foot reach, and its hands bore monstrous claws to cling to its prey or rip it apart and skin it alive. Even on the tiny Isle of Wight, dinosaurs were larger than life. But on another island in Eastern Europe, they were stranger than fiction. When dinosaurs ruled Europe, the Earth as we know it was far different. All the continents were joined together in a giant landmass called Pangaea. During the Jurassic period, it began to break up. By the Cretaceous, 142 million years ago, Europe was moving into its present position, but it was just a hodgepodge of islands. The Atlantic Ocean was only 1,000 miles wide. A land bridge linked North America to the British Isles. But most of Europe lay underwater, a vast shallow sea called Tethys. Only a few isolated peaks hinted at the continent to come.
As the supercontinent Pangaea broke up into all these different parts, the various animals and plants living on those land masses became isolated from other parts. In doing so, they started to evolve in their own independent trajectories. Often weird and strange animals evolved that didn't evolve anywhere else. So the effects of isolation are to evolution has the chance to run off in varying directions.
In Central Eastern Europe, in what is now Romania, an ancient island called Hartsig was cut off from the rest of the world. Today, it's Transylvania, the legendary birthplace of vampires. But long ago, it spawned some equally strange dinosaurs. Instead of the titans that roamed large continents, these monsters were dwarfs. And they were real. Joining a team of Romanian scientists is paleontologist Mike Benton of Bristol University in England. They're exploring a quarry looking for signs of life on Hartsig during the Cretaceous.
When you come up here, above the quarry site, you can see the shape of the land. There are mountains around, and we have to imagine what it was like when the dinosaurs were here.
As the Sea of Tethys steadily rose, dinosaurs that once roamed a continent were now marooned on tiny islands. To survive, they had no place to go but retro.
This is a thigh bone of a dinosaur called Telmatosaurus. It's the same bone as in my leg here. Here's the knee joint, and this is the upper joint that fits into the hip bones. And this shows that this dinosaur is only 5 or 6 feet tall, which is amazing because normally these kinds of dinosaurs, these big plant-eating dinosaurs, have got a thigh bone which is this long.
Telmatosaurus was a duck-billed dinosaur common in Europe and North America 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous. Normally, they were 30 feet long and weighed 1.5 tons. But the Romanian version was no taller than a man and 1/10 the size of its larger cousin. The island of Hartsig may have been small, but the landscape wasn't. Overshadowed by monstrous ferns, Telmatosaurus probably foraged on the forest floor. At 80 feet long, Diplodocus was one of the largest dinosaurs, but not in Transylvania, as David Weishempel from Johns Hopkins University discovered.
And what I have in my hand is the arm bone, the humerus, of a similar sort of dinosaur that lived in Romania some 65 million years ago. And the reason that this is important and a little bizarre, in fact, is because this is a full-size dinosaur. This is a grown-up. This is an adult dinosaur called Magyarosaurus, a sauropod like this one, but it's clearly dwarf.
Dwarfism was only one response to isolation. In another part of Europe, the dinosaurs didn't scale down, they just grew weird. In 1983, an amateur collector uncovered the first complete fossil of a carnivore ever found in England, and the first from the late Cretaceous anywhere in the world. Called baryonyx, meaning heavy claw. It roamed the area around London 125 million years ago. Up to 30 feet long and weighing over a ton, it vaguely resembled a T-Rex. But this was no ordinary dinosaur. It had the skull of a crocodile filled with 128 jagged teeth, twice as many as any other land-based two-footed predator. Unlike most killers of its kind, its claw, a lethal 12 inches long, was on its hands, not its feet. Scientists now think baryonyx was a fish eater that stalked a low-lying swamp that existed where London stands today. On powerful hind legs, a hungry baryonyx wades through water, swarming with armored fish the size of salmon and small sharks the size of catfish. Suddenly it spies a meal and lunges, swiping a fish with its giant claw like a fisherman wielding a gaff. 125 million years later, baryonyx's last meal is found stuck to its ribs, the scales of the fish still visible. Baryonyx was a swamp killer that destroyed all that lay in its path. But 600 miles away, in the shadow of the Alps, in the Altmühl Valley of Bavaria, the killer was a lagoon, and its prey, a creature found nowhere else on Earth. Its discovery would fuel the ongoing debate over the theory of evolution. In 1859,